apologize. It took a little bit to go live, but um, I give a little
Uh,
explanation. I ordered
the,
a new internet service, well, a same provider, but uh, it came with a new modem that would allow me to have 400 megabyte download speed instead of 100, and 20 megabytes upload instead of 10. And the modem was crap. So I spent a whole bunch of time with them because they weren't even sure if they're going to be able to actually change me back to my actual service that I had, which so that took a while. And then it took a while to get my camera going, and it took a while to get everything going. So
took
okay,
about an hour to get sorted, I think.
yep, took a
Nearly.
while. So here we are. So we're going to paste and go here. So I'm going to go to make sure that the stream is there. Uh, so we're going to check the stream. Okay, so it's there. And I believe the chat thing was. Oh, okay. I got to do one last thing. One last thing is I got to get the little chat bot, whatever that is. I have a widget. So it's organized,
Okay.
it's connected. So it should be going at this point. So let's see if it's going to go. It just hasn't done anything yet. It says okay. So it says authorized. So okay, I think we're good. We'll just leave it that way. If it works, it works. It doesn't, it doesn't. Okay, so I just want to make sure. I'm going to go to the actual stream again. And so does everybody hear me? The sound is okay. We have it.
Hopefully they can hear me as well. Just check they've got the right microphone on. It's not going through the camera. It's going through a spare mic.
Yep, I can actually check this because I got if I set this to A3. Leave it that way. If it works, it works. Can you just say something really quickly? Okay, so I just want to make sure. I'm going to go to
Something really, really quickly.
And so does everybody hear me? The sound is okay. We have it. Okay, I did hear you.
Hopefully they can hear me.
Yep, I can hear you. You're all good.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have 6 people watching, which is cool. Did I lose Little Red? Hi, Mother Funk.
No.
Sherry. Hi, Chastity. Who else do we got? I think I got Sherry already. And see who else we got. Not sure if Little Red bailed on me, but she was here. I thank her. Does she want a link? We'll see. Okay, who else is here? Okay. All right, so let me go to my thing.
Yeah.
So we'll go to I do have to bring up one last thing, which is, okay, that's that. So I did have to do one last thing. I forgot about this, which is I just got to make one more little window. So did you want to review those JPEGs that you sent me first? Is that what you wanted to go over first, perhaps?
For the site, for the EXPLORATORYMINDS.com, we'd do that afterwards. We'd go
Okay.
through the moon stuff first, I think.
Okay. So we'll start with the
Probably.
artificial, because this is the first thing you had sent me was
Yeah.
this article here.
No, you got a water on the moon thing showing at the moment.
Did you want the water on the moon first, or?
No, the artificial is what we need. Yeah, that's all right. I was looking on the wrong one actually. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, a claim that the moon is artificial and parked. When I heard this, I thought, well, this is ridiculous. Let's go through this. And after going through it, it's a very bold claim, seemingly outlandish, but there's a lot of data actually from official sources that doesn't suddenly dissolves it, it from a outlandish claim to something that's something valid. It just backs itself up. Although there's no proof of that. I'd rather a mundane explanation. There's a number of anomalies for the moon. It's just one of them is that the orbit is a near circular orbit, which is very unusual because most of the moons around the planets in our solar system have elliptical orbits. If you've got a mass coming through by a larger mass, it's going to eventually get trapped by the gravitational field of that, but it's never going to be a perfect, because it's
Hi,
when
uncovering.
something
Hold on.
travels by, it needs to be elliptical.
Uncovering. I just wanted to say hi. I'm sorry. She said, "What am I, chopped liver?" So, just wanted to say that.
Yeah,
Go on. Go on.
it needs to be like, and it would end up normally being elliptical, um, but it's a near perfect circular orbit. So, is and as it orbits, it's 5 degrees off the axis of our planet. Most orbits go around the equator of their planet as well. So that's two things that are already unusual, but not really that far out, but they're just unusual on their own. And some officials, some people who are somewhat intelligent and not just laymen, are claiming that this is like one chance in a million for, or whatever the odds are. It's very unusual for it to be so perfect like that into the orbit, almost as if it was placed into that kind of orbit. Um, there was something else about the age of the moon as well. Where was it? There it is. It's older than previously thought. Got a note here saying it's 4.5 billion years old. That is older than the Earth itself, and nearly as older as the solar system. The moon has at least 3 distinct layers of rocks, so this is how they discern the age of it.
Right.
So it's contrary to the idea that heavier objects sink, heavier rocks are found on the surface. Where was it? There was something they analysed of the rays of, what do they call it? Neutrons or something? Rays going through the
Neu-
rock. I'll
neutrinos.
find that in a minute. Yeah,
Neutrinos.
and they could discern the age of the rock from that. So they got
Oh,
4.5 billion
well, I think that's like radiometric
years.
dating or something like that. Is what the way they
Yeah,
do
I'll
it.
try and find that. Uh, see if I can find that. Actually, I've got loads of notes here. It's just so much to go over. It's on its own little things you think, oh yeah, maybe just an anomaly, but there's so many things you think, well, it's very unusual. Let's have a look. Try and find age. 0.5.
While you do that, I'm just gonna send Little Red. I'm gonna send her a little quick invite. So just give me 1 second.
Yeah, sure. No worries.
That's my boo, my girl.
Yes, you do. Been looking forward to the discussions, Jennifer Ann says. Thank you very much.
I thought it was an interesting subject. I like talking about, just
Yeah, I'm willing to have a mundane explanation for the moon being unusual, because why not? The people like a mystery, so it is kind of a mystery, even legitimately. Even I think Edgar Mitchell was a astronaut I think he passed away a couple of years ago. He
which one?
scoffed at the idea that the moon could be hollow, but he used to support the idea that it could be cavernous.
Okay.
We get into that aspect of it as well, because the moon apparently rang like a bell when they recorded seismic vibrations. They did it.
when they hit it with things, when they let stuff
Yeah,
actually hit it.
did it really let things hit it? And seismic equipment recorded vibrations going up to 3/4 an hour, half hour, highly unusual. They just didn't stop. It continued for quite some time. So all these things break the idea of the model that something came smashing into the Earth in
Right.
the early origins of the solar system, like a Mars-sized object, and all that material just spun around and spun off and coalesced and cooled down, and then we got our moon. But if that
That's
happened,
the conventional, right? That's the
yeah, that's
conventional.
the basic model. But if that happened, all that spin would have generated the moon being not only elliptical orbit, most likely, but also all that spin would should basically balance off, and you'll have the orbit in line with the axial plane of Earth, but it's 5 degrees off. But then the Earth is tilted itself as well, so it was perhaps in the actual plane, and something hit the Earth and tilted the Earth. It was one thing or the other was tilted for some reason. So, but they're not matching. If you look at orbits throughout the solar system, they're all orbiting the equators of these other planets. The other planets, their moons are in line of the
Well,
actual plane. Their equators.
I thought like Saturn and stuff that because they have actually more captured bodies that they know are actually
Yeah,
captured bodies. So um, I understand what you're
yeah,
saying now.
that might be different where something just drifted in, but eventually over time it should. Because the idea that the moon's been around for eons around our planet, and it should balance out eventually for the orbit to be in line with the axis. But that's not set in stone. But it's just one more trinket of information that is slightly unusual.
I
Where
remember
was
when I
that?
was younger, I used to, I kind of went along with the Star Trek kind of philosophy. Life was
Yeah,
because there are so many, trillions upon trillions of, planets out there that there must be
absolutely. Yeah,
other life. But then the moon is one of the things I would always talk about is like the moon is so large compared to our own body. Um,
mm,
the axial tilt is, there are many factors that when you add them up, it makes life much more, at least, you know what I mean, our kind of life or the perfect conditions for life is a lot more rare than I used to think about
yeah,
when I was
yeah.
young because um, just look at uh, the moon is actually it's actually what do you call tidal locked, and
Exactly. Yeah,
it affects the ocean
yeah.
and gives what I mean it really is without the moon there is no Earth. So please continue.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's
I
what
understand.
they were saying. I don't know if I did you get that link today on
Yes,
Twitter I sent you,
the
and
last
they're
one I'll have to
saying,
add that. Yeah, I can add that and when we
yeah, if it wasn't for our moon, Earth's spin would not be stable enough over the millions of years to help life generate in the most prolific way it
well
has.
we would have
Um,
wobbled more.
yeah,
The that would have
there would
changed.
be a precession of, it would wobble out of, you know, there is a wobble, but it's more stable because of our moon.
Right. It's very small. The wobble is not. It will
Yeah,
change a lot. You're talking like tens of degrees instead of like, what is it, like a half a degree. And it's very, very little.
yeah. absolutely. And it's just because of the wobble that we do have, it does affect us in which we get ice ages, and then there's heat as well. There's a number of effects, even with that small amount of wobble, yes, over time. So I was looking for something about the age of the moon, how they discovered it. Let's have a look.
I thought that was
Uh,
uh, because when they brought the moon rocks, isn't that how they were able to actually?
yeah, I just double checking what cosmic rays is what they're calling it. It's probably like we said, neutrinos.
No, neutrinos is
Uh,
I was that's that I'm wrong about that. Neutrinos is they're not they're still trying to detect neutrinos. It's more hypothetical.
oh
I think
yeah,
they
it's a
have this
theoretical
right,
particle, isn't it?
right,
Yeah,
right. Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, the cosmic rays, scientists have dated them as billions of years old. Some have been dated back 4.5 billion years. That's older than the Earth and nearly as old as the solar system. The moon has at least three distinct layers of rocks, contrary to the idea. Well, that's I got a where I got this bit of information which says, contrary to the idea that heavier rocks sink, um, instead they're found on the surface. Well, I think there are moon quakes as well. That's something else that people think of the moon as if it's a dead ball in space. It's very active, actually. There are moon quakes, and although its mass is smaller than Earth's, therefore its gravity is smaller. The physics are the same as they would be on Earth if you had some breakfast cereal like fruit and nut cereal with large nuts in. If you shook it enough, you're going to get the smaller particles fall between the larger underneath,
Sure.
and it's going to have an effect of propping up the larger. You get large nuts or whatever your fruit and nut, whatever as a metaphor or well something more legit, really. So because there's quakes, there's vibration anyway, so smaller particles can be falling down in between things, and we've learned that it could be a cavernous planet anyway, so they've got somewhere to fall through anyway, and eventually larger rocks are just going to sit on top of that anyway. Same thing happens on Earth. We've got all these different layers of material, and we dig through, and you
Right.
see evidence of past things like evolution in our fossil records, but it's in layers because it's the smaller bits settled down as well. It's also why it's doing that. So I think that little bit of information could be explained away like that. Um, there was something that the Soviets discovered that was unusual. I'll try and find that. Soviet astronomer Nikolai A. Kozyrev, I think that's how you pronounce it. They always have very difficult
Yes.
names.
Yes. Sure.
The Crimean Astrophysical Observatory startled the scientific world by photographing the first recorded gaseous eruption on the moon near crater peaks. So again,
And when was this?
this was 19. I think it was between 1969 and
Okay.
1977. That's when the Apollo missions recorded the seismic stuff as well. And the
Right.
Soviet, an event occurred in 1958 in the moon crater. That's when they discovered that as well. So registered moonquakes is interesting as well because again we think of the moon as if it's some dead ball in space, very active. Up to between 1969 and 1977, then Apollo missions seismograph equipment registered up to 3,000 moonquakes. And that's just the ones it was able to detect because there was near enough the equipment. There's probably a lot more than that. Most vibrations were small
Right.
and were caused by meteorite strikes or falling booster rockets, but many other quakes were detected deep inside the moon.
Now, are you
So as
reading
to
from the
why that
article
is,
that's, are you reading from this article that's up here, the one that we have up?
yes, yeah, the
Okay.
artificial impact.
Okay,
So
so
if it's
if you,
deep,
how far down are
if
you?
it's
Let me see, because so they can,
that's quite a bit down. That's past the
give me a second here.
video when they
Okay.
go it past the NASA video.
So, Apollo's just, so, okay, vapor cloud, have you reached that? 14 hours lasted?
Uh,
A vapor cloud erupted. I don't remember you reading that part because that's right underneath the video.
no, but that's interesting as well, because that's a long time, isn't it, for a vapor cloud to last?
Right.
If you think of stuff coming out of the ground on Earth, like a natural spring or something, or geyser, it
Geyser.
don't normally last
Yeah.
14 hours. Like, there's some that are more constant, but when you get a rare burst or something, it doesn't last 14 hours. So
Right.
there's probably a lot of activity deep inside the moon causing that kind of pressure because all that energy has to come from somewhere. But the surface of it doesn't appear to be that active. There's a lot of evidence for rock that was once volcanic, but there's no true sign of volcanism on the moon either.
Right.
So these things, multiple points of data that seem to be contradicting the standard model. No volcanism, yet there's huge plains of smooth rock called Maria,
Yes.
and these are evidence that it was volcanic rock,
Right. That's the
but
dark.
no evidence
That's,
of volcanism from the moon itself.
yeah, the dark areas. That's the Mari. Right. Those are.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, that it just if you look at the moon at night, you can see those larger, darker patches.
And it has less. There's less craters because it's a newer surface.
Yeah,
It's been resurfaced, so that has wiped out a lot of the earlier bombardment that the moon had suffered.
yeah, absolutely.
According to the model, as you know, as we're talking about.
Yeah, and I think what was it? The craters, orbit, hollow moon. We're getting to this. I mentioned the vibrations and the uh, seismic equipment as well, what they recorded. Uh,
So
as
you've
far as
read.
but
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
sorry, I kind of going over at random bits because there's
Oh, okay. Yeah. Try and go over.
so
So they
much.
can follow the article. You get what I'm trying to say. So that's why. I'm
Yeah,
gonna.
okay. So where was Apollo missions, seismic stuff? Yeah, Kozyrev, if that's how you pronounce it, his
Right.
name, of the Crimean Astrophysical Observatory, startled the scientific community measuring the gas eruption near crater peaks.
Trying to
Obviously,
find.
the gas has got to come from some kind of activity deep inside the moon. For some reason, like
Right.
and there's needs to be energy to do that. You don't get something from nothing. There needs to be an input of energy for that, so it's not a dead ball, so to speak. Um, Kozyrev attributed this to escaping fluorescent gases. He also detected a reddish glow. This is characteristic of carbon compounds. On Earth, a lot of carbon is part of biology as well. So, that's something to be considered as well.
Right.
Uh, so carbon compounds, which appeared to move and disappear after an hour. Some scientists refused to accept Cosro's findings until astronomers at Lowell Observatory also saw the same reddish glows on the crest of ridges in, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, in the Artiscarus, not sure how you pronounce it, region in 1963. It's a specific area of the moon. Days later, colored lights on the moon lasting more than an hour were reported at two separate observatories. And, obviously colored lights, gas, moonquakes. The moon's very active. There's a lot of activity going on. Seismic signals from different stations on a lunar surface detected identical vibrations, both very much the same, but the seismic signals were different places, but the vibrations were extremely identical, which is very unusual. If you get tremors or earthquakes on Earth, you don't get a tremor over here, then way long distance somewhere else, the exact same frequency.
Right.
So that is very unusual. And, conclusions lean towards that being artificial somehow or created rather than just a natural phenomenon. Where was I? Seismic, that's it. Like they're saying, it's difficult to accept this movement as natural phenomena because of the exact same way it occurs each time the moon passed near the Earth. Now, again, the orbit is near circular, but there is a bit of that orbit where it does get nearer the Earth than the rest of the orbit.
Right.
Some people think the moon's
It's not purple.
very near sometimes,
Right.
but it's not. When people see all the moon in the sky, they think, "Oh, the moon's really, really near tonight," but that's an optical illusion because it only looks near when it's nearer the horizon. You've got that contrast. It's really always pretty much the same size in the sky.
So it's an
But there is
atmospheric. It's an atmospheric phenomenon.
it's more akin to do
Oh
the
no, no, I remember what
perception.
you're talking about. It has to do with right when it's closer to the ground because you have reference
Yeah,
frames.
it's a perceptual
Right.
thing. It's a perceptual problem. It's like when it looks like it's massive, just going above some trees or a mountain. It's really the same size as it would be further up. All you got to do is stick your thumb out and close one eye and cover it. You'll be able to cover the moon pretty
Right.
much exactly, and you'll be able to do the same thing if it was further up in the sky. It just our perception makes things seem, it makes it seem bigger than what it actually is.
Well, when you have a reference frame is what it is. When you have something to,
Yeah,
you could see a tree and then it, you know what I mean? Whereas when it's high in the sky, there's nothing next to it, so you can't,
yeah, you can't
it doesn't,
immediately discern how big it
right,
might
right.
be. Yeah. Uh, so furthermore, the seismic signals from different stations is a unusual thing. Where was I? This is where they're talking about the vibrations. There is evidence to indicate the moon may be hollow. I wouldn't say hollow. I'd say cavernous. Whether
Right.
a lot of conspiracy theorists jump on that one with the moon's hollow and the rabbit hole is a dangerous place. Like, you just fall down that one with all kinds of things. So it could be hollow, cavernous, for whatever reason. And studies of moon rocks indicate that the moon interior differs from the Earth's mantle in ways suggesting very small or even non-existent core, uh, which is very difficult for the experts to try and explain, because they think with their general understanding of physics, that there should be some kind of core. So theories have arrived there now as to, was it artificially terraformed? Was something, because you got all this molten rock outpouring, and yet there's no sign of volcanic activity. There's no volcanoes as we know them as on Earth, but there's signs of fresh rock that's been solidified from being molten. Was something digging into the core, melting the rock and pushing it out to the surface to make the core hollow?
Well,
It's a theory.
the explanation for it not having a core, right, is because it's supposed to be basically composed of the crust, because it's
Yeah,
supposed to be
it's like a shell maybe, but
No, I mean, but the
um,
material that the moon was made out of is supposedly because it wasn't a direct impact. Supposedly um, the thing that in that model that created the
yeah,
moon is supposed to be like a glancing blow, and it ejected all the crust, not the the, the core part of the proto Earth. So that's why it
right.
supposedly doesn't have as much iron and is much less dense.
Yeah, that's one possibility, but it's still, with such a collision and things flying off, and they should be some kind of settled down and
Right. Okay.
sort of, gravity should have brought everything back into a system where there should be a core, but of the moon, like, there should be a core there, but it is, because of the way they've measured the vibrations, it looks like there's no core. There might be, it's just less dense, but
Right. Right.
it should be more dense than the outer layer. But what the seismic equipment is showing is that the outer is more dense than the inside of the moon, um, which is very unusual for against the standard model.
Well, it's also that it's the far side is also has a thicker crust. Which is the side that has the thicker crust? The side that faces the
There's
Earth, or the side that is away from the Earth?
there's a bulge facing away from. It's not necessarily an obvious bulge if you was to look at it from a distance or whatever, but the denser side is pointing away from Earth, which again doesn't make sense, because more mass away from Earth, Earth has its gravitational mass, and so does the moon. You'd think that the two would align because they're near each other, in which that bulge would be facing the Earth, but it's not, it's facing away. But then perhaps that there's something else to be considered there, is the moon is moving away from us a little bit each year. Perhaps that's where what's dragging that bulge away. It's being attracted by some other gravitational force, possibly. I'm not really sure. Even that on its own is a very loose theory with holes in it as well. But you'd think the denser side would lean towards Earth because of gravitational effects. I mean, anything more mass is going to attract anything with equal amount of mass, or more mass. That makes any sense.
Yes.
Uh, where was I? There we go. As far back as 1962, NASA scientist Dr. Gordon MacDonald stated, if the astronomical data are reduced, it's found that the data required that the interior of the moon be less dense than the outer parts. Indeed, it would seem that the moon is more like a hollow than a homogeneous sphere. So, that was a NASA scientist
Right.
who actually said that. Again, a lot of these anomalies being talked about by very smart individuals. So when they speak, ears need to perk up rather than dismiss it. The title of the article is a claim that it's parked, on its own. If you say that in a public bar, they probably think, "Hey, you've been taking mushrooms again," or something, But there's a lot of anomalies. There's a whole list of very unusual aspects to this, and the officials don't really have any solid answer. Uh, where was there was
I can
something
get you.
else?
Give me 1 second. I can get you to it. You were just saying. So you're at the point where it says, indeed, it would seem the moon is more like okay, Apollo 14
Hmm.
astronaut. Is that where you were at?
Yeah, that's the one. Apollo. Yeah, Edgar Mitchell scoffed at the idea that the moon could be hollow. Nevertheless, admitted that since heavier materials were on the surface, it's quite possible that the giant caverns exist within the moon. There's something else about the density of the areas that were supposedly once molten rock as well. They're so dense that orbiting artificial satellites that orbited
Yes.
to map the moon, they cause those orbits to change slightly
Yes. They have
because
to
of
account for the. They have to account for.
gravitational, because it's more mass.
Right.
They're changing the gravitational pull. So the moon's gravitational pull is not very uniform all the way around, because there's some really super dense areas and there's others that are not so dense.
And they have to account for that. This is part of like I remember they talk about this because this gets into their fuel calculations because they have to expend fuel
Yeah, exactly.
to
Yeah,
keep the orbit, um, you know,
cost effective
becoming
orbit is what they
from
need.
becoming too
Yeah,
eccentric. Otherwise,
yeah,
you know, what I'm trying to say. So it's something that actually is, like I said, it costs a decent amount of fuel for them to actually maintain the orbit because of these irregularities.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. There was that's an important bit. I scrolled down past a few bits there.
Okay, so
Uh,
to where the opportunity?
to get to where it says to quote, and I'm going to quote Morris Ewing.
Okay, yeah, oh,
I
that's
think
right.
that's his.
Yeah,
Yeah. Uh, Scientists were at a loss to explain the ringing, like the vibrations from the seismic equipment. Their term is the moon rang like a bell. To quote Morris Ewing, he said, "As for the meaning of it, I'd rather not make an interpretation right now, but it is as though someone had struck a bell, say in the belfry of a church, a single blow, and found that the reverberation from it continued for 13 minutes. They later discovered that there's a much longer term of the vibrations as well. It says here in our article that it is established that smaller vibrations have continued on the moon for more than an hour. And this is not a massive
Body.
when they hit something into the
Oh,
moon.
okay. Yes, yes. Okay, yes.
You know, this is not like a massive,
No.
huge thing that you would think would cause that much vibration for that long, unless it was very, very cavernous inside. Because if it was more dense, that vibration, I think, would be stopped. It would be absorbed by the sheer mass, but there's obviously not enough mass in there to absorb that. So the vibration bounces around in there for quite some time. So up to an hour, the phenomena was repeated when Apollo 13, third stage, was sent crashing deliberately into the moon by radio command, striking with the equivalent of 11 tons of TNT. According to NASA, this time the moon reacted like a gong. If you're familiar with a gong,
Yes, sure.
when you hit it, it's
Right.
a
Remember
small
the gong?
vibration that
Yeah, the
gets
gong.
louder and louder. Yeah. So it kind of gets louder and louder as it progresses, and then it finishes off. So, although seismic equipment was more than 108 miles from the crash site, recordings showed reverberations lasted for 3 hours and 20 minutes, traveled a depth of 22 to 25 miles. Subsequent studies, man-made crashes on the moon yielded similar results. After one impact, the moon reverberated for 4 hours. The ringing, coupled with the density problem on the moon, reinforces the idea of a hollow moon. Scientists hoped to record the impact of the meteor large enough to send shockwaves to the moon's core and back to settle the issue. That opportunity did come in on May the 13th,
Yeah,
1972.
you're on
You
the
want to
same
scroll
article?
down?
You're on the
Yeah.
same one? Okay. Yeah, I can't find it.
If you want to just keep, where is it? Orbit, especially. Um, yeah, if we go back up to quote and just keep scrolling down where it says that opportunity came on May 13th.
Okay, you see. Okay, yep. Okay, I see it now. Yep. When a large meteor struck the moon, with equivalent
Yeah,
to
when a large meteor struck the moon with the equivalent of 200 tons of TNT. So this is a meteor that coming in naturally. It's not anything that NASA is pro projecting to the moon deliberately. After sending shockwaves deep into the interior of the moon, scientists were baffled to find that none returned, confirming that there is something unusual about the moon's core or lack thereof. Now, you can pronounce the doctor if you want to. It's Dr. Farouk.
Farouk El-Baz.
Yeah, we'll call him that. Was quoted saying, "There are many undiscovered caverns suspected to exist beneath the surface of the moon. Several experiments have been flown to the moon to see if there was actually such caverns. The results of those experiments have not been made public. It seems apparent that the moon has a tough, hard outer shell and a light or non-existent interior. The moon's shell contains dense materials such as titanium. This is important with the material of the moon. Uh, the moon's shell contains minerals. Titanium. It's a very hard metal.
Yes.
By the way, the military plane, the SR-71 I talked to you recently about,
Yep.
they used titanium for that because it was the only metal they could really consider surviving Mach-free speeds because it got so hot with the friction
Right.
of the atmosphere.
It was able to
Yeah,
keep its integrity at that high temperature.
absolutely. Yeah. So titanium, very tough metal. Uh, Used on Earth in construction of aircraft, as we put, and space vehicles. Many people still recall watching our astronauts on TV as they vainly try to drill through the crust of the moon. Maria is that rock where it is said to be once molten. So that's what they call it, the Maria uh, areas.
Right.
Their specially designed drills could not penetrate even a few inches. This is puzzling, really, because you could drill through rock that was once molten on Earth quite easily,
Right.
but not the moon rock because part of the makeup is titanium, and it's a very dense metal, among other materials. The puzzle of the moon's hard surface was compounded by the discovery of what appeared to be processed metals. This is why, a lot of these things, this is why they're saying it may be an artificial or once was something artificial, meaning created by an intelligence and deliberately parked into orbit by around whatever Earth was at the time. We weren't around then. We weren't around to observe with our current technology. So we can only take educated guesses. But it really annihilates the standard model of something that was Mars sized smashing into Earth and then spinning off because it just doesn't, you know, again, even the orbit itself should be elliptical, but it's not. The orbit is 5 degrees off the actual axial plane of the spin of Earth as well, and then there's all these other trinkets of data to consider as well. So it's not a normal moon, definitely not normal at all.
Well, couldn't that be accounted for by like some like passing bodies? You know what I mean? Because
Yeah,
the
that on
early
its own,
solar system had a lot of protoplanets, so could
yeah,
the orbit have been influenced by something that didn't crash into it but passed near it?
yeah. I think perhaps you got a point there, but again, that on its own, yeah, but it's still unusual because if you
Right.
look at the
Yes.
orbits of moons on other planets, they tend to orbit the actual axial plane of the planet they're orbiting
Right.
rather than being off kilter like 5 degrees or whatever it is. But yeah, that's a fair enough argument. But it's just makes you wonder. It's like, oh, if it was just that on its own, you could make that argument and say
Right.
and dismiss it and say the moon's not a mystery. It's just this dead rock. But there's so many. The list goes on and on. Like all these outspurts of gases and water and moonquakes and really hard rock that we can't drill through very well.
Hmm.
Um, and yet there's no evidence of volcanism on the moon, but there's rock there that was once molten. The whole thing just constantly doesn't add up to the standard model.
Right.
Uh, precious. This where was I? Maria. Yeah, they couldn't drill through the Maria. There is specially designed drills could not penetrate a few inches. The puzzle of the moon hard surface, accompanied by the discovery of what appeared to be processed metals. Experts were surprised to find lunar rocks bearing brass, mica, and I can't pronounce it. It's amphibole. I think that's how you pronounce it. I'm not sure.
All right.
I think it's a precious metal. Amphibole. It's more like a crystalline metal. In addition to the near pure titanium, there's also uranium-236 discovered and Neptunium-237 elements not previously found in nature, meaning like the nature of Earth. We would have to combine something out of the Earth with something else. We'd have to process this. We'd have to make it artificially. Yet, supposedly, the moon's made out of the same materials as Earth or some Mars-sized object that hit it, ripped off some material and went into orbit.
Right.
But again, where did all these materials come from, if that was the case? And why aren't those materials on Earth? It's been said Earth has all the iron as well, so there's an argument for that. But again, it's all of these things just do not add up because it's too many of them like this. So where was I?
You're what is it called? Experts were surprised by lunar rocks.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
it. Yeah. I got it.
In Neptunium, so we discovered moon rocks according to the Argonne National Laboratory. We're still finding explanation. We're still trying to explain the presence of these materials. Scientists were further startled to learn of rust-proof iron particles.
Yeah, that's remarkable because that doesn't exist iron does exist on Earth as well.
Right.
But nature of planet Earth, the geology or whatever you want to call it, the processes do not produce rust-proof iron. It has to be made artificially on Earth. So again, there's another metal that it needs to be processed, needs to be artificially made. Nature just doesn't do it. This is why some people are theorizing that there was some kind of artificial, deliberate influence on whatever the moon originally was by some intelligence. And if I didn't know all these other bits of information, and somebody blurted that out to me in a public bar, I think, like I said, I think you're on something. But there's enough data there to try and back up the claim. Bold claims need, what's the saying? Extraordinary claims need extraordinary evidence.
Right.
So that this iron that doesn't rust. The moon's incredibly dry. I think you linked something about that. It being dry, but there is evidence of rust on the moon, despite the rust-proof iron.
Right.
But the moon is incredibly dry, so you need free hydrogen, and you need oxygen and free hydrogen to create rust. But even moon rocks that came back, even in the minerals, there's no water locked in minerals. You get that with quartz-like materials on Earth. Is the water? It's not water as you know it, but it's locked up into the structure of the quartz. or pyrites, and other natural forms of crystals that we get on Earth. But there's even that was so dry that there's no sign that yet. There's been jets of gases and jets of water, that they found water on the moon as well. But it seems to be so isolated in areas that doesn't add up, because these other areas are just too dry.
Yes.
Again, it kind of breaks logical thinking of how things work. Yeah, this is what they're discovering as well. Um,
And I'll let you go for a second. I'll be right back. I just have to get something to drink really quick, so you can go ahead.
yeah, that's fine. No worries. So we were at Neptunian 237 elements not previously found. I read that. Rust-proof iron. The Soviets had announced the discovery of iron particles that do not rust in samples brought back by unmanned moon mission in 1970. Iron that does not rust is not known by the nature of Earth or any, it doesn't rust. It is unknown in nature, and currently in the 1970s is actually beyond any technology we had at the time to produce something like that. I suspect that we'd probably be able to create it now, though. I would have thought, because we're at technologies now where you can actually manipulate atoms now with certain materials. So why not? So undoubtedly, the greatest mystery concerning our moon is how it came to be. How it came to be there in the first place. Prior to Apollo missions, one serious theory as to the moon's origin was that it broke off the Earth eons ago, although no one could positively locate where on Earth it originated. Many speculate the loss of material explained. Sorry, I've lost my place. Many speculated the loss of material explained the huge gouge in the Earth, which forms the Pacific Ocean. However, the idea was discarded when it was found that there is very little similarity between the composition of our world and the moon. So, where did it come from? Did it drift in from elsewhere? If it drifted in, why has it got a near circular orbit? Something that's drifting past might get trapped by a gravitational field of Earth, the gravity well of Earth, because it's got bigger mass. But for it to generate such a perfect near circular orbit would be very rare. You want something drifting past, and it wants to carry on going past, but it will get trapped by that gravitational pull. But for it to end up being, I'm going to go in a perfect circle now, it just doesn't tend to happen. The Earth was crashed into during Aniukai War. Donut, I'm not with you on that one. I'm willing to accept a mundane explanation for the moon, but I'm at a loss myself. And these theories of it being artificial they kind of add up, but we can't really say who it was or why they did what they did. If it was a intelligence that placed on moon, or even why, if there was an intelligence that placed our moon in place, where am I? I'm reading. So it's the greatest mystery. Where did it come from? Prior to Apollo missions, one serious theory as to the moon's origins was that it broke off at the Earth eons ago. I've read that bit, although the material is different. Many speculate that the loss of material, I read that bit, difference in composition. A more recent theory had the moon created out of space debris left over from the creation of the Earth. This concept proved untenable in the light of current gravitational theory, which indicates that one large object will accumulate or loose materials, leaving none of the formation of another large body. It is now generally accepted that the moon originated elsewhere and entered the Earth's gravitational field at a point in the distant past. Hope you're all with me. I hope I'm not boring anyone, but I think you're finding this interesting. You're all still here anyway. So many theories have diverged. One stating that the moon was originally a planet which collided with the Earth, creating debris, which combined, forming the moon, while another states the moon, while wandering through our solar system, was captured and pulled into orbit by Earth's gravity. Neither of these theories are especially compelling because of the lack of evidence that neither the Earth nor Moon seem to have been physically disrupted by a past close encounter. There is no debris in space indicating a past collision. That's another important thing. If something hit the Earth, that could have been a Mars-sized thing that produced the moon afterward. There would be other debris. So, if it happened like that, we should have more than one moon. There would be other bits. Okay. Look at the other planets out there. They have other moons. You back, Joey?
Yep.
Yeah.
Did you have some questions? Were people asking you some questions or something?
Just just looking at some of the chat there. But, I think they're finding it interesting. I made an important point here. If it was a Mars-sized object that hit Earth, that produced the moon, where's the rest of the debris from that would have caused smaller moonlets, if you will? Smaller moons. But there isn't any. It's just we got this one moon. You look at the other planets with moons, they got way more than one moon. And, of course, you could make the argument that larger masses brought stuff in.
I don't think any of the we're the only of the inner planets, though, that has a moon, right? I think I saw something that Mercury might have a small satellite of some kind.
I don't know. I know recently, I forget which probes it was. They sent out a probe, because that's another mystery, is Mercury. They sent out a probe that analyzed Mercury, and they come back with the data. They sent out another probe, and they discovered Mercury has now generated a magnetic field. It didn't have one during the previous mission that analyzed it. So, our solar system's changing, evolving, but
it's still a
mystery. As to what caused that, it's a mystery on its own. So we're just going over like the argument of different models. Like, one model could say that this our moon could be something that just drifted in from elsewhere. But if it did, why has it got a near circular orbit? Is very it just doesn't tend to happen. You've got something shooting past, and then gets drawn in by a larger gravitational field. Is You'd have to have, for it to be a near circular thing, it's very rare. It's almost as if like, oh, I'm going to decide to go in a circle now, the perfect circle. That our satellites around our planet go in circles because they're designed to. Our satellites we put up for commercial communications because that's an intelligent influence. We want them to do that. But for something to come in naturally, it would be it's seemingly very deliberate for it to be very circular. It just not something that nature doesn't do things in a very linear way like that. It tends to be more organic. And you look at the orbits of other planets and moons around those planets, all of them are practically elliptical orbits. Even Earth's orbit around our sun is slightly elliptical, by the way. We do get a little bit nearer our sun, not much, during a certain time of year than
That's
we
one of
do.
the things that the flat earthers kind of, they're like, oh, how is it that, when we're farther away from the sun, it's winter. I mean, when we're closer to the, they're like,
Yeah,
excuse me, there's a southern hemisphere.
yeah.
They
They
seem
don't they
to,
don't understand there's a tilt that creates the seasons as well. Because
yeah, but
this is
yeah,
model.
what I'm saying is they're just like, oh, well, like someone like Eric Dubay will be like, how is it, in the like I said, when we're farther away, that's actually winter. That's proof of that's like what I mean, that the Earth is
Yeah,
actually flat. And it's like, no, like in Australia, that's their summer. In South America, that's their summer. You know what I mean? When
yeah. I don't. But the thing of the flat earthers, they got all these different models of flat Earths, and they can't even agree with themselves, let alone agree with um, anybody who says no, it's not flat, it's a sphere, and here's why and all that. So it doesn't matter what they say; they're never going to agree with anyone. It's just like there seems to be any excuse to deny because reasons, because conspiracy, because you know. I think they default back to the Dark Ages idea because they think everything in advancement in technology has been a lie for some reason. I think that's the whole mindset.
yeah, a lot of references to like biblical things, and for some
Yeah,
a certain
a lot of
certain segment.
religion,
Yes.
religious influence, and you get one model where Australia doesn't exist, and it's a conspiracy and it's a lie. Like, it's just, and then another model is it does exist. All this, it's just crazy. Uh, but this on its own, saying that the moon's part, that's crazy. But then there's all this data to back up that crazy statement, and it's possible. Not saying it's true, but it's possible that the moon is artificial and parked. Well, because all these processed metals, um, rock that can't be drilled because it's too hard, and a hollow, not hollow but cavernous perhaps. Um, it is very unusual for the standard model in comparison. Uh, to try and find my place now, I was where there was information there about the huge gouge in Earth which forms the Pacific Ocean, for instance. That could be where that gouge because of something hit the Earth, and when it flung out, it formed the moon. But it doesn't add up again because the composition of the moon, the composition of Earth, is just too different. Um, so the standard theories seem to start to fall apart and have cracks in them. Uh, and yet, which brings in, you've got to have a theory to replace it. And, many theories have diverged, one stating that the moon was originally a planet which collided with the Earth, creating debris which combined, forming the moon, while another states the moon, while wandering through the solar system, was captured and pulled into orbit by Earth's gravity. Neither of these are especially compelling because of the lack of evidence that neither the Earth nor the moon seem to have been physically disrupted by a past close encounter. There is no debris in space indicating a past collision, and it does not appear that the Earth and the moon developed during the same period. Again, going back to how old the moon is 4.5 billion years old, nearly as old as the solar system itself, according to current data anyway. So its origins, who knows? Who knows where it came from? The circular orbit is especially odd, considering that the moon's center of mass lies more than a mile closer to the Earth than its geometric center, which this fact alone, oh, that's right, so that there is perhaps, I don't know, I might contradict something I said earlier, but we'll go through it anyway. The geometric center would be the geometry, but there'd be different densities of mass within that geometry, the shape. So the fact that alone should produce an unstable wobbly orbit, according to the experts, much as a ball with a mass off center will not roll in a straight line. Additionally, almost all of the other satellites in our solar system orbit in a plane of their planet's equator. We mentioned that earlier. The axial plane, it sort of tends to orbit. This is not the case with our moon, whose orbit lies strangely near the Earth's orbit around the sun, or inclined to the Earth's elliptic by more than 5 degrees. So it's 5 degrees off the axial spin of the plane. So 5 degrees off kilter, unlike many other moons out there that orbit in line with the equator of their planets. Add to this the fact that the moon's bulge, this is where we mentioned something earlier about the moon's bulge located on the side facing away from the Earth, thus negating the idea that it was caused by Earth's gravitational pull, putting it into place, makes for an off-balance world. So I don't know what you think of that. I mean, it's like there's a extra bit of mass that is more dense on the far side of the moon,
Right.
which naturally you think of a mass that's bigger than the moon, which is Earth's. You think that mass would, turn and face, the far side should be facing Earth, but the far side is facing away from Earth because the far side is more dense. If it's more dense, it should have more gravitational pull. towards Earth, but it doesn't. It just continues. Again, there might be something else out there influencing that orbit because
Right.
all the old, it's all complicated orbit and everything moving around. We're not when you go to school and you learn about the orbits going around the sun, for instance. It's a good way to start to learn about things, but it's not really that complete because we think of our sun as stationary and there's planets going around it, but our
Well,
sun's going through space and the
well, when you
galaxy's
would,
going through space
well,
and we're
when you would,
spiraling through.
when you would
Go
spin
on.
something, though, the heavier part would actually, the centrifugal, is it? Or centrifugal force
Centrifugal force,
would
or
actually would make the heavier part go to the outside, and
yeah,
the moon is essentially spinning around, it's spinning around the gravity well. So it's
yeah,
not to me so um I understand about the Earth's gravitational pull might make
hmm.
the denser part closer, but I think that
Yeah. If you're saying like the orbit is fast enough, perhaps
yes, that's what I'm saying.
for it to cause a centripetal force to push the larger mass out there
Yes.
away from us, uh, then the Earth isn't really as influential on the Moon as we might think. Yeah, that's a good argument actually, and the Moon that makes sense because the Moon is moving away from us a
Yes.
little bit each year.
It's like an inch or two
So that
inches a
force,
year or something.
that spin is making it go further out. And yeah, you make a
Event,
good argument there, I think.
e-
Um,
eventually it's gonna, I mean, supposedly the Earth is supposed to be gone by that point, but it's going to actually
yeah,
leave the actual Earth's orbit. It's going to become a free body at some point.
yeah. And what does that do to our, this, obviously it influences our tidal systems and stabilizes our orbit, our spin as well. So that, as it moves further and further out, we probably get a slightly more and more unstable spin. There's a whole set of things to be considered then. Or perhaps by that time, as it moves away, something else will come in. Or who knows? Just thinking about the what could happen. Uh, so yeah, that's a good point you made there. Actually, that's the mass is facing away because the orbit around Earth is just fast enough for it to push that force outwards, and it would be the larger mass if that was the case, pointing away from us, despite Earth being a more gravitational pull anyway.
Right.
Uh, so, if we was to slow down, if the orbit for some reason of the moon slowed down a bit, it would probably cause that mass to, like I said, it should be facing the Earth, that denser bit, but it's just going fast enough around for it to be pushed out away from us. Um, Not sure where I was. Oh, I was scrolling through gravity, blah blah blah.
You're
Like I
at the
said,
point where you're talking about the crust of the moon was denser or on the opposite
yeah,
side.
yeah. I think I was probably me interjecting is there as well. I'm not. Oh, Pacific Ocean, moons, debris, and balance. I'll find it. Sometimes I get a bit word blind as well when I'm looking at and B A L world.
So do you see what Jennifer has to say? There was a second moon announced from Earth in February 2020.
Yeah,
CDF
they think that
3.
might be one of. the things we sent up, like some artificial thing. That's it, is it?
No, no,
Heard
she
something
says
recently.
no, no.
Oh, go on.
If you read it, she says there was the second moon announced from Earth, February 2020. CD3 is a tiny class of asteroids.
Oh, they're CD3. Oh, right, okay. Yeah, and I've heard also recently that we're going to gain a smaller, a mini moon, and it's what it is one of the things that we sent up is a bit of space debris, actually, but it's come back into orbit from some time in the 70s. It was sent up or something or other. So, second moon announced for Earth, February 2020. CD3, tiny class asteroids. Right, okay. Cool. Uh,
Oh, did you want
where
to
was it?
show that video?
If you want to, yeah, they discovered water on the moon. You want to put that up.
Okay.
Thing about that video is they put that up and he talked about buckets and buckets of water being possibly discovered. And we talked about how dry the moon is. After that video, it just went real quiet. They didn't say another thing much about it. Wait, perhaps they're waiting until they got more data, but I know it's just unusual that they went very quiet about it.
Okay. So, oh, anyway. Okay, yeah, this is this video here. Hold on, right here. Oh, hold on. Ooh, okay, hold on. So it started to play. Okay, I'm sorry about that. Hold on. Let me see if I'm gonna go back to here, and I'll just get that page getting back again.
Fireworks, wrong one. Oh, I see. Yeah. Right. Just gonna have a call in nature. Won't be long. Be back.
Okay, sure. Sure. Let me find this. Sorry for the being quiet, guys. Trying to get this page back because it decided to play for some reason. So yeah. Let's see if we can go back to the original page here. Yep, there we go. We'll just wait for him to get back. Alright, here you're back. So we got the page back already. Okay, so we'll let this run.
Okie doke.
Do we hear the video here? I don't hear the video.
I haven't got the same normally.
Let me see if this is.
No, I don't hear the video through there. Something. Not hearing it, no.
Oh, give me 1 second here.
Just boiling the kettle at the moment. If you hear any fuzziness, having a cuppa.
Let's make sure we have. Well, we got. Scene does have audio. Let me just check. Is the stream hearing this or not?
Can you post anyone in the chat if you can hear the video that Joey's trying to play?
No, I'm gonna give it another shot here. So I did hear it before.
Saying it.
Yeah, I can see it's playing, but I can't hear anything. Try hitting. Oh, okay, maybe.
That in the 20 to 30 meter
There we
crater
go.
across May,
So
we found
Joey's
maybe
trying
about
to
a dozen
play.
of these 2-gallon buckets worth of water. So this is initial results. It's preliminary. Yes, we found water,
Saying it.
and we didn't find just a little bit. We found a significant amount. If you remember, about a month.
Gone quiet again.
Didn't find just a little bit, and it's probably a lower bound on the total amount of water we've seen here, and there's a whole lot more beyond the water. So that's the exciting part in my mind, is it's not only about the water now. There's actually a lot more here that we're going to be talking about in the months ahead, looking at Bell Cross data. Didn't find just a little bit. And
Retry this for a second.
Having trouble with the same?
This is our plan.
if you remember,
This
about
is
a
our
month
move.
ago, we were talking about
This is how far.
So I'm just gonna back this up 1 second. I'm gonna stop the other one. They'll be able to hear the audio, but one on XSplit is actually playing. So we're gonna pause this.
Time to recover.
Indeed, yes, we found water. And we didn't find just a little bit. We found a significant amount. If you remember, a month ago, we were talking about teaspoons going to glasses, football field. Well, now I can say today that in the 20.
Oh, dear. You got audio on the video now, or?
Yeah, I guess I'm gonna give up. It's not coming through. So
Ah. Well, basically, they discovered water, but maybe they did say more on it, but it just went quiet for quite some time after they said much about it at the time. But I'll look for see what else they're saying anyway. Sometime the article just needs some updates anyway, because the whole thing seems to be evolving with new bits of information.
I'm gonna just do this. Let me see if that. Okay, let's see if that one works. Let's see if they actually hear it.
Michael Wargo, Chief Lunar Scientist for NASA Headquarters, Washington.
Indeed, yes, we found water. And we didn't find just a little bit. We found a significant amount. If you remember, about a month ago, we were talking about teaspoons going to glasses over football fields. Well, now I can say today that in the 20 to 30 meter crater Elcross made, we found maybe about a dozen of these 2-gallon buckets worth of water. So this is initial results. It's preliminary. And it's probably a lower bound of the total amount of water we've seen here. And there's a whole lot more beyond the water. So that's the exciting part in my mind, is it's not only about the water now. There's actually a lot more here that we're going to be talking about in the months ahead, looking at the Elcross data.
This is not your father's moon. Rather than a dead and unchanging world, it could in fact be a very dynamic
in my mind,
and interesting one.
It's not only about the water now. There's actually a lot more here that we're going to be talking about in the months ahead, looking at the Elcross data.
Okay, so we're just gonna move on to the moonquakes.
Mm.
I'm not sure why that wasn't working. It was working before, but
Yeah, it's one of those things.
yep.
There's basically 4 types of moonquakes. I think they discovered probably 4 different depths, maybe, I don't know.
And how does this relate to what you were presenting? You know, what you were.
Well, the moonquakes themselves is probably, they've measured like these gases outpourings, like gas coming out of crater rims and things like that. So there's pressure in the moon causing that. So there's some kind of geology or activity going on in the moon, and perhaps it is these pressurized gases that are causing those quakes, maybe. But because it's cavernous as well, you get a quake or a vibration, and it goes on for up to 4 hours sometimes, if something hits it and all that as well. But again, the moon quakes is probably why the larger rock is actually on the surface as well, because of that. The general physics of smaller bits going down in between, and then eventually propping up the larger stuff as well. I think that's a fair argument what might be working there. But as to what is going on causing the pressure within the moon, causing one saw a reddish glow of gas coming out of a crater rim. Who knows? So just not really sure what could be causing that. Perhaps it's friction between gravitational pulls between other planetary bodies, like twisting the moon a little bit, causing friction on the inside. But then there isn't any true core inside. There's according to the measurements, because it's cavernous as well. So what is causing it, I'm not really sure. Again, it is a mystery, the moon.
Okay, so let's read this. NASA astronauts going back to the moon, and when they got there, they made quake-proof housing. When they get there, they may need quake-proof housing. NASA astronauts are going back to the moon, and when they get there, okay, so just a repeat.
Right, yeah. You got a small snippet, and
It's weird.
I just thought I'd share it with you because it's valid
no,
that
it's
it's
just
come from NASA.
yeah, the sentence is just repeated twice. Surprising conclusion by Clive R. Neal, Associate Professor of Civilian Engineering and Geology Sciences at the University of Notre Dame. After he and a team of 15 other planetary scientists re-examined Apollo data from the 1970s, the moon is seismically active, he told the gathering of scientists at NASA's Lunar Exploration Analysis Group (LEAG) meeting in League City, Texas, last October. Between 1969 and 1972, Apollo astronauts placed seismometers at their landing sites on the moon.
Yeah,
Apollo 12,
that's where I
14,
got that.
15, 16 instruments faithfully, 15, 16 faithfully radio back data to the Earth until they were switched off in 1977. So this is showing I guess the first. This is Apollo 11, right? Buzz Aldrin was Apollo 11, so they're showing. Oh, they're showing a picture when they didn't put this on, but it's okay. Buzz Aldrin. So I'm not sure why they. Okay, it's I mean they're talking about the 1969, but Buzz Aldrin was on the Neil Armstrong, right? And Buzz Aldrin.
Yeah,
He was
yeah.
on
I think
Apollo 11.
must have been 1969. Yeah,
Yeah, Sea of Tranquility. That's where
yeah,
that's the first.
yeah.
Um,
First moon landing.
yes.
I think it's about six manned missions we've had to the
Right.
moon.
Yeah, 11, 12, 14, 15, 16, and 17. Was there 17? I can't remember. There was 17, right? 11, 12, 14, 15, 16. It has to be because there's been 12. I know there's been 12 guys on the moon, so. Okay. There are at least 4 different kinds of
Sure.
moonquakes. Deep moonquakes, about 700 kilometers below the surface, probably caused by tides. Vibration from impact from meteorites. Thermal quakes caused by expansion of the rigid crust when first illuminated in the morning by the sun and after 2 weeks of deep freezing lunar night, and shallow moonquakes 20 to 30 kilometers below the surface. So a lot of those make sense as far as
Yeah, that's basic physics. But again, there's a good argument, I guess. Can't help feel that there's something being smoothed over there.
right.
A little bit conspiratorial maybe, but
Okay.
but then they're just trying to discover it themselves as well. They're trying to learn.
The first 3 are generally mild and harmless. Shallow moonquakes, on the other hand, are doozies. Between 72 and 77, the Apollo seismic network saw 28 of them. A few of them registered up to 5.5 on the Richter scale, which is pretty decent size. A magnitude 5 earthquake on Earth is energetic enough to move heavy furniture and crack plaster. Furthermore, shallow moonquakes lasted a remarkably long time. Once they got going, they continued for more than 10 minutes. The moon is ringing like a bell, Neil said. So that's something that you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, and just quoting them directly, like they're the one that said it.
Right.
You know, this is what I like to do: is try my best, really, to gather quotes and data from credible sources, especially when you got an article like that or a claim like that. Is like claim that the moon is artificial and parked. And it is a theory. It's not a claim set in stone. There's no, there's no legitimate proof about it. But the idea gets more percentage of validity when you go through all this data. Is like seemingly processed metals on the moon as well, like the metals that don't occur in nature. All these oddities. The gaseous outpourings as well. I think that would probably add to some vibrations and moonquakes, but they don't seem to mention that too much. But they mention other things that seem to add up as well. So, credit where it's due sort of thing.
Okay, on Earth, vibrations from quakes usually die away in only half a minute. Go on. You were saying, okay. The reason they do, the reason has to do with chemical weathering. Neil explains. Water weakens stone, depending on the structure and material differences. The energy propagates across such a compressible structure, it acts like a foam sponge and deadens the vibration. Even the biggest earthquakes stop shaking in less than 2 minutes. That's unusual that the moon does it for up to 10 minutes.
Well, in some cases, up to hours, vibrations come back up to 4 hours, or the seismic equipment recorded,
Right.
according to some sources of information.
The moon, however, is dry, cool, and rigid, like a chunk of stone or iron. So moonquakes set it vibrating like a tuning fork. Even if moonquakes aren't intense, a moonquake isn't intense, it just keeps going and going, Neil says.
Yeah.
For the lunar habitat, persistent could be more significant than the persistence can be more significant than the moon's magnitude. Okay, so they're just saying that since it continues for a long time, I guess it could probably almost cause like a resonance or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, like if you do have a tuning fork, you separate from each other, you prang one over here,
Hold on.
and the waves will cause another one to pick up the vibration and
Just gotta check something.
do the same thing. So it's,
Hold on. Can you speak? Because I wanted to make sure that.
oh, did you lose my microphone?
No, I just checked the sound. I hear it.
Okay.
Okay. Yep. Because I saw. I guess this probably was some kind of lag when we were trying to play that video.
Yeah.
That video never worked.
There's a bit of a lag.
Yeah, this audio
I'll
seems to be okay.
I'll check the article sometime and make sure it's.
No, it's something on my
Not-
end. You know what I mean, because it played
right.
and I'm not sure what it is, and I'm not sure how to fix it in the middle of the stream.
So it's not the video itself then?
No. Because I was able to hear the actual audio. It has something to do with coming through the stream. I'm not sure exactly what it was. So.
Yeah, it's a bit odd.
Something in my settings. Okay.
See, in the article, there's a bit of information where a point I made about the orbit as well. Near circular orbit would be rare. We go over that in a bit if you want.
Okay, let me see if I can find that. Okay.
If you search the first words, just as an Apollo spacecraft circling the Earth every 19 minutes.
Well, that's not in this article then, right?
No, that's not that article. It's the article that we started off with on my site.
Okay.
But
The
not,
first,
yeah,
the first article. Oh yeah, okay,
yeah.
okay,
Obviously, these links that I sent you was, just to emphasize, look, this information is credible because NASA has said this, space.com has said this. These are people who know this stuff.
right. Let's see. Okay. So anyhow, so this article is basically talking about
Yeah, the
possible
basic physics of what could be going on with the moonquakes. Yeah,
and it really does. It seems to be addressing hazards for the future colonization of the moon, really more than
yeah, yeah.
anything else. Any habitat that would have been built would have built materials that's somewhat flexible, so no air leaking cracks would develop. We would need
That's a,
knowledge of fatigue threshold, building materials, that is, how much repeated bending and shifting they could withstand. And they would also be going
yeah,
through really um, big swings in temperature, so expansion and contraction.
yeah. That makes sense. With because there's no atmosphere per se.
Right,
You're going to get a lot of energy directly hitting the moon as opposed to a planet with atmosphere like our own.
right, right.
That is gets absorbed in the atmosphere before it hits the ground. It gets dissipated a lot of the energy.
So it's going to discuss what causes the shallow moonquakes and where do they occur. We're not sure. The Apollo seismometers were all in one relatively small region on the front side of the moon, which is facing the Earth. So we can't pinpoint exact locations of these quakes. He and his colleagues do have some good ideas, among them being the rims of a large and relatively young craters that may occasionally slump. Okay, hadn't thought about something like that. Um, we're especially ignorant of the lunar poles. Yeah, I know that's a big deal. That's what they're trying to. I didn't think would be that difficult to land there, but I guess the orbital mechanics makes it quite difficult,
Yeah,
actually.
it's just a distance, I guess. I don't know. There's some reason for it.
Right. Um, we're especially that's important because one candidate location for lunar base is on the permanently sunlit region on the rim of Shackleton Crater on the moon's south pole. Okay, so that's pretty cool. That's permanently lit. Neil and his colleagues are developing proposals to deploy a network of 10 to 12 seismometers around the entire moon to gather at least data for at least 3 to 5 years. This kind of work is necessary, Neil believes, to find the safest spots for permanent lunar bases.
Hmm.
And that's just the beginning. Other planets may be shaking too. I believe they have detected on Mars as well, right?
Yeah, I know there's ice flows on Mars. Like there's actual liquid water because they detected where they satellites have seen the craters on Mars. They've seen sudden flow, what looks like liquid flows down into the craters where ice around the rims is melted and gone liquid and flowed down and then frozen again. So there's a lot of theories that there's a lot of permafrost just underneath the
Right.
surface of areas on Mars as well. So there could be a lot of water. There's definitely ice caps. There's images of frozen ice on Mars, of the pole. The pole caps, ice.
Right. Okay, so let's go here, and this is the PDF. So what are we getting out of this here?
Uh, no, just wait for the YouTube's change. Just to say that they discovered water on the moon as well. Again, you know, you could use it if you want to, but
No,
there might be.
this is your kind of your presentation. So what do you what do you
Yeah.
think? You know, so go ahead and elaborate.
Or again, you know, because they discovered water on the moon, it's important to share that NASA have said this, and there's also data that the moon is incredibly dry. They've taken rocks from the moon, and there's no water locked up even in the minerals from rocks.
Right.
Yet they just discover all this water as well. So, yeah, that's basically that in a nutshell as to why I said here, show this, because we got these seemingly contradicting sets of data from the same place. You'd think there would be water in the rocks. They discover water anywhere, because where they have discovered water, they're talking about it in large amounts, but it's very, very localized, which leads me to believe that, you know, there's many theories out there that the water's coming from deep within the moon, and it's a surface that's very dry, but for some reason it's coming out of the moon, pressurized perhaps, in very localized areas, like gases being released, like the one who observed gases coming from these crater rims that was reddish in color,
Right.
hinting at possible carbon. If you've got carbon and you've got water, do you get life as well? It's just, you know, where do these, you know, the combinations of the right kinds of materials, if they got water, is there bacterial life or microbial life out there? Could be. I don't know. It's possible.
Okay.
Because even on Earth, we got biology that survives very extreme environments, like
Yes. Yeah. Right.
in the bottom of the ocean, you got volcanic outlets, and there's things that live in right by this, like boiling water.
Yeah, they call it the black smokers.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
And is he also saying about the what do you call it? The ones that live in the fairly acidic kind of pools. Thunder
Yeah,
actually.
sulfur. That's
Right.
sulfur gas is making the water very acidic, corrosive. But of course, you probably need biological life in a somewhat stable environment first before it evolves to getting close to something that is something it could never originate from in the first place, but it's adapted, it's evolved to something like that. But since we don't know the true origins of the moon,
Right.
because it doesn't fit the standard model, perhaps there was something biological on it from the get-go that was there due to some intelligent influence. Perhaps. Doesn't mean it was, but it's just theoretical.
Okay. So I guess let's move on to your website. So let me just do
Yeah,
something
can I
really
just
quickly.
just
Yes.
briefly talk about the orbit? Because that was
Yes.
important.
Okay.
Important that we
Where was that? Was that any presentation that you had given
the
me or
the first article that we was going over,
okay.
it's just a
Let
little
me
bit, tiny
let me go
bit.
back. Yep, let me go back to that then. Okay.
I think if you search the
I can't
sentence,
yeah, I can't search because this is on my I can
ah,
scroll, but
sorry, I'll just read
I
it.
can't
Read it
I
out.
can't search.
Yeah,
Yeah, go ahead.
I'll just read it out
Sure.
because it's a bit where it says, just as Apollo spacecraft circling the Earth every 90 minutes, while 100 miles high, has to have a velocity of roughly 18,000 miles per hour. So, got an artificial satellite circling Earth every 19 minutes. It has to go past, an orbit is a controlled fall, really, as you know, it's
Right.
controlled fall towards the Earth. So, it has to go at the speed past the Earth at 18,000 miles per hour in order to stay in orbit around the Earth, and the gravitational field just keeps it going around. So something had to give the moon the precisely required velocity for its weight and altitude at a point seldom noted, considering the origin of the moon, that it is extremely unlikely that any object would just stumble into the right combination of factors required to stay in orbit. Something had to put the moon at its altitude, on its course and at its speed. Question is, what does the sun think? What they're getting at is, this is, we can put up a satellite and give it a near perfect circular orbit,
Right.
and all these other moons going around there, these other planets out there, they really don't have that. It doesn't tend to happen. Nature just doesn't do things so perfectly. So you need the perfect speed for the exact type of mass to go perfectly circular around a larger mass.
Right.
So we're asking, what was this something that might have positioned this? If the precise and stationary orbit of the moon is seen as sheer coincidence, it is also a coincidence that the moon is just the right distance from the Earth to completely cover the sun. Now, that little bit,
Right.
I got a gripe about that, because people have said, oh, the moon's just the right size to eclipse the sun during a solar eclipse perfectly. Well, they think it was actually more nearer once,
Well,
sort of invigorating.
I was gonna say I was under the impression that the standard model, the way they talked about, because we just talked about that the moon is moving away at like an
Yeah.
inch or two every year. So for
So if it's moving
4 billion,
away,
for 4 billion years, it was a lot closer.
yeah. So if it is moving away, then at some point, yeah, sure, it's going to cover the sun perfectly. At some point, it's probably going to be much smaller, not covering the sun, and an eclipse is going to look more like an eye. By
Right.
then, if that was happening now, people would probably be saying, "Oh, religious origins came from people thinking that the eye of God was watching them in the sky," or something like that. They're filling the gaps.
Right.
So but I put it in because this is what people have said and so on, and I will be evolving the article anyway. But
Okay.
it's a good argument though about you need the right velocity with the right mass at the right altitude, specifically all those variables for something to be this linear perfect circle or near perfect circle. And nature just, it might be a coincidence, it might, but with all the other set of data as well, it just doesn't, makes you think, oh, was it really put there or not?
I must say I'm a little skeptical of all, you know what I mean, of the
Yeah, well, so am I. That's the whole point, though. But
right.
it
Well,
doesn't
it's
fit the.
yeah, right. It's just a discussion to have, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Just something to talk about.
yeah. But again, the that's something else briefly mentioned, then we get on to what the website is about.
Okay.
So in July 1970, two Russian scientists, Mikhail Vasin and Alexander Chorbakov, I think, are these Russian names,
Right.
published an article in the Soviet journal Sputnik entitled "Is the Moon the Creation of Alien Intelligence?" They advanced the theory that the Moon is not completely natural world, but a planetoid that was hollowed out eons ago in the far reaches of space by intelligent beings. And it sounds outlandish, but it's not beyond reason because of all the other data. Um, Possessing a technology far superior to ours, the theory goes along in the lines that machines were used to melt rock and form large cavities within the moon, spewing out the molten rock refuse onto the surface, protected by a hull like in a shell, plus a reconstructed outer shell of metallic rocky junk. It sounds like science fiction, but this is what they mentioned. This gigantic craft was steered through the cosmos and finally parked into orbit around the Earth. There's no proof of any of that. But if it was a artificial ship, it would explain what seems like artificially processed metals and all these other variables, but there ain't no proof. And it's possibly outlandish to say, but there's no proof against it either. It's just, again, like you said, it's something to talk about, and it's theoretical. So yeah, we get into the website now. So.
Okay, so let me get to, I gotta do, this is something because of the stupid modem. I wasn't able to get prepared, so it's just gonna take a second to actually just set up something really quickly. So let me go here and let's do this. And what is this? How do I do this again? Capture, screen capture, window capture. Okay.
Glad Sherry's enjoying herself.
Okay, so let me do this here. Just take a second, do that. Get rid of the aspect ratio. Okay. Okay, so I just gotta zoom in here. And okay. So this is the first one you sent.
Okay. Right. I don't know what order I sent them. So it was just
Oh,
was it a zip file, was it? Yeah.
Yeah, you don't see it yet. This is your
Yeah.
like basically the administrator page, I guess.
Yeah, I am the administrator, but that's my profile page on Exploratory Minds. And the point is, there's a bio there. You can have your own bio, and you can arrange it like you put in the information about yourself. You can embed videos, kind of like a mini blog, but there is blogging as well. So that that's basically what I would say about that page. On the right side there, you have this scrolling information of our latest articles.
Okay, right over here. The genotype and phenotype.
Yeah, well, whatever.
With the green and the purple text.
Yeah, that's the main blog. That's the articles, and we put articles on there that other people have put on in their own blogs on the social pages. So that's basically it. It's just telling people what you can do with Exploratory Minds. You can have your own bio page, fill out the data. If you wanted to, you could put in your donation links in your bio, anything in there.
This is what you're saying up here, where it's like the timeline and the friends and the photos and Well, or
Yeah,
is this just yours? These are just your
that's
blogs.
just mine. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
But every user can have those options.
Right.
Yeah. So you have you have your timeline, and it's kind of like Facebook.
Right.
But I want to just lightly go over it,
Okay.
just to present so that people in the chat know what exploratoryminds.com is and what tools there are to use and so on.
So this looks like your blog, I guess. Is this what this is here? It's Lucid
This
Dreams.
is one of my articles or blogs on the social pages. It's not the main blog. Again, excuse me. The main blog again is that scrolling thing on the right where it
Right.
says, like we pointed out earlier.
Herbal ammonia acid research.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
that's the main. You click any one of those and it goes straight to the main blog, which is still exploratoryminds.com, and it'd be /EMP blog, EMP meaning Exploratory Minds Project.
Okay.
But with the blogging side, again, it's my account that you're watching, but in the screenshot, anyone can do this. They can have
Right.
their title of the blog, they can left align the text, they can embed a video, they can put links into external things of their own, their YouTube, and you'll get an editor, a basic editor, when
So
you type out your blog.
the links on the left where it says like news feed. What does that mean? Is that people that you're following who are
If you go to
um
news feeds, like Facebook news feed would be, you're
right.
seeing everyone's post.
That's what I'm trying to,
Um,
right. That's what I was asking.
yeah,
Okay.
it's all going up.
Of the
There's
people that you
many
actually
options there.
of the people that you're actually following, you've chosen though, right? It's not just everybody, or is it everybody?
Um, I think it's everybody. I might. I say I think because we've been playing with different settings
Okay.
recently, but the news feed is the news feed is what's going intentionally. It's just what's going on with the site, is what people have been posting, and you won't see a whole blog in the news feed. You'll see a link to someone's blog, say like Lisa Kurtzman is one of our members. Like you'll get a link saying Lisa Kurtzman posted a blog, and you see the title. You
Right.
click it, and it goes straight to their blog. So anyone who joins, they can do this. They can blog on the platform, left align the text, put images in, put videos in, embed videos in. We've got SoundCloud embedding now, in which if you have a SoundCloud, if you embed your link to your SoundCloud, any music,
Right.
whatever you've got on SoundCloud, it actually creates a player within your post, so you can play your audio via the page rather than having to go to a link to take you to SoundCloud separately.
Okay.
So that's that one.
And do you have
If you
like
wanna-
your own this t-shirt merch? Do you have any t-shirts?
I've got a Redbubble shop. I'm going to change that soon. I'm probably going to go with Spreadshirt, and I'll be doing a proper set of videos soon on how to use exploratoryminds.com. Anyway, the whole thing's an early project. Just trying to get people comfortable with the whole concept of it.
Okay. So this is, I take it, the signing up page here.
Signing up page. I'm looking at the
Says new memberships incur a one-time fee of $20 for a blogging app. Create own group chats. Public
that is
only
the sign up page again on the top right, top left corner. You got the latest members.
Right.
Anybody who clicked one of those, you'll go to that members page. But there'll be some things missing. Yeah, she's lovely.
Pretty sure she is.
Really gorgeous. And if you clicked any one of those, actually, you go to their profile page, but there'll be some things missing unless you're logged in. Some options, you won't get your newsfeed options or anything like that, but you'll see their profile, and you'll be able to see their blogs as well. Again, the below latest members is the links to the blog, the main blog
Right.
again.
So is that your article about
And
the SR-71?
yeah, that's my article. And obviously, sign up. It's now dropped to $5, by the way, not $20 one-time fee. So you
Okay.
wanted to sign up, you just $5 one time, not monthly, not weekly, not annually, just one time.
Right.
And you get the blogging app. You'll be able to create your own chats privately, public post to friends, or you can publicly post to everyone, or you can make your posts only your friends can see them. Direct messaging or private messaging. Edit your unique bio page, as we just saw, and there is file sharing. You can post a file from a number of different formats.
So
And
why
what
is
I'm
it
looking
called
to
a
do,
why is it called a B5 page? What does that mean?
that's a typo error.
Okay.
It's supposed to be bio page.
Okay.
I went in to
Yeah,
edit
sure.
some
Yeah, that's
things,
okay.
and I was
Yeah, sure.
yeah,
No problem.
I was re-editing some
So you
things
said
the
file
same day
sharing?
I sent you stuff. Yeah, file sharing. We've got the file sharing, but the MP3. What I want to do next for the upgrade of the file sharing is when you upload, say, I don't know, podcast or whatever, a form will appear saying if this is if you choose MP3, I want a form to appear saying if this is your work, audio work, or podcast, do you want to sell it? And you'll put a monetary value in and it'll be linked via your PayPal, and you can sell your audio on there. Another thing I wanted to do was perhaps, this is doable, we just need the time and effort to get it done, is
Right.
we'd take a slight snippet of that, but you will get 70%, we get 30%.
Okay.
And that's a fair deal, I think. But you can monetize your profile anyway by putting the email for your PayPal, and a donation button automatically appears on your profile anyway. So, you're going to make back potentially anything from your one-time fee anyway. You're going to make it back.
And do you get anything, like, are you expecting anything from the donation page or what? Is that the 70,
No,
30
the
thing as well?
donation, I don't think we should take a cut of the donations. The donation
Okay.
should be from one person, whoever, like
Right.
if I went to your page and donated a set amount, I want all of that to go to you. I think that's fairer. But with file sharing, it should be a bit different.
Okay. Just want to
Photo
remind
album,
people.
yeah. I'll change some details once we get all this pushed
Right.
through the file sharing. And then you can have your photo album, just like Facebook. You can put in images, pictures, name your album in different categories, and so on. And there's more, there's more to come. If your blog on the social pages is particularly interesting and it backs itself up either with a theory like what we've gone through or with legit confirmed information, then we'll give the opportunity to give you a shout out. I'll shout you out on YouTube, and you'll have your blog posted on your article posted on our main blog, so you get thanks for using the site there.
Right.
It's really how I want to harness this and help people raise all ships peacefully together.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
So go through the next image.
Okay. It looks like the same. It's a different page, but it looks like the same kind of. Let's see what this is. So
I might have sent you.
Yeah.
It's the same
right,
thing.
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. If you want to, there's another one there somewhere just to point out the photo album, I think.
Right. This is your photo album here. It says profile picture, profile covers,
Yeah,
journal oddities.
that's it. That's my photo album. And, you know, as you can see, you'll automatically get a album with profile covers as well.
Mhm.
And anything else, anything else you want to add to that, you get those as well. Your about page basically is automatic. It reports what you sign up with, like your name, your age. Forget. Let me let me see how I've got it. Actually, I'm just going to quickly
Sure. Let's see
have a
what's
look
in it.
myself because there's been a few changes. My internet's a bit slow at the moment.
Okay.
Just having a quick look there.
So
So
I
it goes
assume
from my
this is
profile.
when you, so this next page is just how you create either what, a blog, or what kind of article is this for creating?
Yeah, just briefly, your about page tells you your gender, tells people your gender, your age, your date
Well,
of
no, this
birth,
is,
and
yeah,
what.
no, this is, it says create. So it says title thread, thread title, select friends.
Uh,
So I guess
yeah,
you
yeah,
take,
yeah.
you could,
I'm still on that previous video, and just to
okay,
previous image. I'm still on the previous image to explain what
okay,
about page is. When you click about page, you'll get gender, birthday, birth date, sorry, your age, and your nationality,
okay,
what language you speak. So that all's taken from what you choose on sign up anyway.
mm-hmm.
Um, and where you had create, yeah, that's if you want to go back to that image.
So it looks like you could
Yeah,
tag, so people will be notified of your friends. You can tag
yeah.
them so they know about that you've written an
What it
article.
is creating. That's not the blogging, but what that is creating a chat room, and who you tag gets an invite to your chat room. The best thing about this, you can have a group chat, and nobody else can see that chat unless they're invited to it, even if they had the link to your chat. All they're going to get is a 404 page or something, or I'm going to change a 404 page to a redirect anyway. So you can have your private groups, your private chats with a group rather than a one-on-one private chat, which you can have as well. And you have full moderation on that chat. It's just one click to delete chat, and it's one click to boot somebody out if you needed to
Right.
as well. And really pleased we got that one through, actually. Took some doing, but it works fine. It works nice. This
And
presentation was very interesting. Thank you, Cherry.
yep, it was. And thank you very much, Jennifer. And she stuck here for almost the whole thing. I think she had to leave for a little
Yeah.
bit. Because we've been in this like 2 hours or something or so.
Yeah, there's
So
probably more data I could have gone over, but it's just too much.
now, do you follow SpaceX at all, or?
Yes, I've been following it a little bit, but one of the other things is what we've talked about is uh, Elon Musk. Obviously, he runs SpaceX, but he's also doing that Neuralink thing as well. I think that's fascinating as well.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, the
I mean,
thing we
that's
actually
got so
talked
much.
about that the other day. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah. It's
And
quite funny when I've thought about as a paraplegic start dreaming that he's walking around. He's just yeah, while he's asleep, he's like wearing a kit that the chip picks up I mean, it's a
almost
funny thought. It could happen, couldn't it?
it kind of reminds you of the Star Trek, the Menagerie, when Pike is basically, he's in that, um, he's a cripple and he's in that, machine, but they're able to make him feel like he's able to walk again, at the very end.
Yeah, I think I've seen that. Actually. I'm not really Star Trek fan,
Oh,
but
okay.
I
Oh,
think I've
okay.
seen that
That's
one.
that's the original series. There's an episode called The Menagerie. Where
Yeah,
it's
I think I know
about
what you're referring to, though. Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
planet
I mean,
Talos 4.
yeah,
It's the only death
good
penalty
point.
left on the books is to visit the planet Talos 4. And, so Spock takes the ship there because his captain has gotten irradiated with some, it's called Bertol rays, I think it was. No, no, I can't remember the name of the rays, but some kind of like baffling uh, failed, and he went to save people, and as he did, it devastated his body, and
Yeah,
he
I vaguely
presents.
remember something like yeah. I do remember that
It's the
episode.
only two-part episode in the original series, um,
Hmm.
which basically I believe was the pilot, the original pilot.
Oh, right. Yeah.
That's why Jeffrey Hunter is actually it's Captain Pike and not Captain Kirk. Um, and when they did like the second pilot, he wasn't available. He was doing like some kind of movie. I think he was doing King of Kings or something. He was doing like the movie where he's Jesus Christ. And
Right.
but it kind of goes to the same thing where his body um is crap, and so is the girl who he's with, who wants to be with
Right.
him. She was in a crash and they put her back together, but she goes they'd never seen a human before, so all of her parts work, but you know, she's kind of like a hunchback, and
Yeah.
she's not quite put together correctly, but all of her organs work and everything else like that. And at the end, the two of them are able to reunite, and they'll live
Hmm.
like a fantasy life, which will be just like reality for them.
Nah, interesting. Yeah.
It was a good
VR.
episode. I believe that in the pilot they just leave the planet. They don't. He sees what she really looks like, and she's like, I can't leave because they show her why, because he wants her to leave with them as they go to leave, and they show her what she's really like, and they go, we wanted
Uh,
to let you know that her desire to stay here is a genuine one, and
hmm
we're not she's not being held hostage. Because she's like, I can't go with you, and like I said, they show her what she really looks like. So in the Menagerie, they adapted it to like I said, they incorporated him, Spock needing to take him to that planet so he can have a better quality of life for the end of his life. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah, yeah. So
his
a lot of the Star Trek, Star Trek series, but particularly the first ones, the morality stories, the story on
yes,
morals and things. Really,
yes,
the morality plays.
yes, very much so.
I think a
You
lot of
know,
people missed that point. Though.
sure. Well, to me, it never. There was, there's the one where it's got his name is Frank Gorshin. He was the Riddler, if you remember from Batman. And
Yeah.
there's a race of some people are half white. They're white on the right side, and then there's half of them are white on the black. They're black on the right side, and they're racist against each other because he's like, are you blind? Can't you see? I'm white on the right side. He's black on the right side. And when they get back to their planet, they kill. They're the last two left. They've all killed each other. Over that, which
Hmm.
was basically a morality play about racism, um,
Yeah.
about the between hatred between blacks and whites. A lot of
Yeah.
there was a
Crazy.
lot of that as far as there was a lot of episodes that basically the Romulans were the Chinese, and
Right.
The Klingons were the Soviets.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
That's
It's just that's clever, actually. Yeah.
yes, it was right. And
Yeah, that is clever.
okay, so I think we're at a point to. So is there anything else you wanted to talk about your website, or your, the Exploratory
Uh,
Minds project?
I think that's it. It was again, if people wanted to join, you can have your private chats. You can post like you do on Facebook. You can file share. You can blog.
Right,
Uh, you can create your own chat rooms. That's how social networks should be going, rather than
right.
look at Facebook. Oh, it's changed its template. Big deal.
Yeah, I
It's
don't have
changed
one.
its
Yeah.
look. It's just, but they're not doing anything new. All they care about is gathering people's data, and
Yes.
it
So
just doesn't work.
just
It's an
commerce.
old model that's,
Right.
and again, I see a lot of websites doing this concept of trying to um, immediately support the user is what we want to do. There's no adverts on exploratoryminds.com. I'm not saying I would never do it, but I try lean away. I'm trying to lean away from having to do anything like that. And as
Right.
soon as you get habits in, look at YouTube. This Google own it, and a huge amount of Google's revenue is advertising. It's not we as YouTubers are advertising canvas. This is why they treat the user base like shit. Granted, it's a site we can use for free and do all these wonderful things, but it it felt like we had a lot of more direct support before Google bought YouTube off these free PayPal employees who used to own YouTube, or was it five? I don't know. But Google, seeing and all these big companies, they don't care about the individual and it should be now about grassroots, because people are being deplatformed for just saying particular words here and there, and it's just
Right.
ridiculous.
Right.
And my idea is, if you're going to use a platform, if you're going to create a website and have users use a platform, enable them to help you, help them, help you, a big feedback loop. It shouldn't be all one way. It should be, particularly in today's world, it's becoming more and more fragmented. We need to support
Jesus.
each other. And again, if you're going to blog at exploratoryminds.com with any of your articles, if it's something that we like, I say we because there's me and two others that do help out. I I think if it's a particularly good article, we give you a shout out. We reward you for
Right.
having a good article by saying, "Hey, go and check out so and so's blog or whatever," and we might even post your blog on our main blog.
Right. Right.
Your article then. So that's the whole concept really behind Exploratory Minds. It's not about anyone's specific subject, but I do like to pick out these subjects and then extract the most interesting part of those subjects, like I did with the SR7 one, or done with the moon stuff as well.
Right. So I'll edit the description and I'll put your links to your um.
Yeah,
You want a link to your Twitter as well, or?
yeah, sure.
Okay. So I'll put.
The whichever,
Yep.
it
Yeah.
all
Yep.
works.
Yeah. I'll put a link to the website and to your Twitter.
Yeah, choose.
And okay.
And
So
I'll
I think that's.
probably,
Go
once I
on.
get it done, I'll probably link in the Spreadshirt shop soon. I
Okay.
do have a Redbubble one, but I think
Yeah.
that Redbubble isn't quite what I wanted.
Sure. I can add that in afterwards.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll get that
Okay.
done soon anyway.
Okay.
Cheers.
Thank you
Thanks for
for
doing
coming
this.
by. Yep. Thanks for coming by.
Yeah,
Enjoyed it. Very interesting.
again,
Some interesting thoughts.
yeah.
And
Well, it is thought provoking, isn't it?
right. Right.
To say, nothing's set in stone, but it's thought
Right.
provoking as what happened in the moon's past to make it the
Sure.
way it is today.
Okay. Okay, guys. Okay, Jack, you take care.
Thank you.
And thank you guys for coming.